بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise and thanks belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon his servant and final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As to what follows, my dear respected brothers in Islam, Suraah Al-Balad, لا أقسم بهذا البلد, is a Meccan surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam before the hijrah. And what's interesting is, just before you begin with this surah, to understand the relationship between the beginning of the surah and the end of the previous surah. Our last lesson was the last passage of Surah Al-Fajr. Surah Al-Fajr is the surah that is before Surah Al-Balad. But what is interesting is that the end of Surah Al-Balad, the end of Surah Al-Fajr, when you read the beginning of Surah Al-Balad, لا أقسم بهذا البلد, it automatically reminds you of the end of Surah Al-Fajr. The end of Surah Al-Fajr, the lessons of it are revived back in the first ayah of the surah. And how does that work? Allah Azza wa Jal began Surah Al-Balad by the mention of Al-Balad. Before we begin with the first ayah, Al-Balad means the city. Well, here it refers to the city of Mecca, the holy city of Mecca. And the end of Surah Al-Fajr, it ended by saying, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna. It ended by addressing the tranquil nafs. When ulama rahimahumullah, they say that the most tranquil of places on earth is Al-Balad. Al-Balad, Mecca, is the most tranquil places on earth. And into now, when you visit someone that you haven't seen for a while, you get excited and you get overwhelmed. If someone was invited to a wedding of his relatives he hasn't seen for a while, he gets excited and overwhelmed. Innama, when one goes to Mecca and he steps foot there, even though he's been there before, he goes there again, and a third time, each and every single time he walks in there, his heart is incredibly overwhelmed with excitement and happiness like nowhere else he's ever been to before in life. Subhanallah, Surah Al-Balad began with the mention Al-Balad, and the end of Surah Al-Fajr ended with the word Al-Mutma'innah, as though telling us that the most tranquil places on earth is in Al-Balad when the people go to Hajj and go to Umrah. Then the next ayah was Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'innah irji'i ila rabbiki, return to your Lord. And you see, when the people go to Al-Balad, when they go to Mecca for their Hajj and for their Umrah, essentially what are they doing? They are returning back to their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Hajj, al-ulama rahimahumullah, they said that Al-Hajj is a symbolical representation of the Day of Judgment. That's what it is. Hatta even the ihram that the people wear, the white that you wear, is reminding you of your kafan, the shroud that one is wrapped with before he enters his grave. For literally, it is a symbolical representation of the Day of Judgment. That everyone goes there for one purpose, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the Day of Judgment, when the people are resurrected from their grave, that's the only one purpose as well. They're resurrected for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. فَإِرْجِعِي إِلَىٰ رَبِّكِ, return to your Lord. And when the people go to Al-Balad, they are involved in this action of returning to their Lord on a yearly basis. إِرْجِعِي إِلَىٰ رَبِّكِ رَاضِيَةً. Radiyatan, meaning that you are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who understand this in the olden times. Now, you just get a ticket and a visa on a plane in a comfortable seat, a few hours and you're there. Never experienced this in the past, where you had to leave straight after Ramadan. Or on the camel, where the one that makes it, the one that doesn't make it, he dies. But eventually, weeks and weeks later, they make it to Al-Balad Al-Haram and they reach there. And you can understand now how much is the excitement and the happiness in such a person. That there is considered radiyatan. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan. When you understand the word radiyah, to understand what exactly does it mean to be happy and content, it is the feeling that one has as soon as he arrives to Mecca after many months and weeks of travel. Radiyatan mardiyah. Mardiyah, you being pleased with. Being pleased with the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows a person to reach there, and the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows a person to do Hajj and allows him to do the Umrah, and promises him on his Umrah and on his Hajj a forgiveness of his sins. You know that the Hajj, the end of the Hajj, what's the ultimate reward of the Hajj in this worldly life? That a person returns free of sin. And if one is returning free of sin, that is a sign that Allah is happy with him, Allah is pleased with him. Allah mardi anhu. Allah Azza wa Jal is happy and pleased with him. For that is mardiyah. For radiyatan is you happy that finally you've arrived. Umardiyah is Allah being happy with you. How did we know that? When we understood that there was a guarantee of forgiveness of all the sins. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي, enter among my slaves. When you go Hajj, you do Hajj by yourself. Or you go and you enter Hajj among the millions of the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are also doing Hajj. فَذَاتْ فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي, enter among the company of my slaves. وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي, and enter my paradise. And we know that the ultimate reward of the Hajj in the hereafter, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, من حج فلم يرفث ولم يفسق رجع الحج المبرور ليس له جزاء إلا الجنة. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, that the accepted Hajj has no reward but the paradise. فسبحانallah, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. You just stop at the word al-balad, and it connected us to all these meanings that happened in the last passage of the previous surah, as though they're being revived once again at the beginning of the surah. Now Surah Al-Balad, an incredible surah in its meanings, in its understanding, in the wisdom and in the lessons that it involves, that it offers, especially contemporary lessons that you and I need of guidance today. Allah Azza wa Jal begins the surah by saying, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. Here there's a lot of confusion as to what la means. Does this first ayah mean I do not take an oath by the city? In translations you open it says I swear by this city. So what is la doing there? Or what is the benefit of la? In brief, there's a lot of talk about the la, but the most authentic and accurate translation or meaning and understanding, tafsir of la, and as a matter of fact, anywhere it comes in the Quran with uqsimu, there's more than once it comes in the Quran, la means no, not at all. And it's separate from the word uqsim. So when we read, we're reading la and we stop. And when you say la, when you say no, you're saying no to someone that is saying something wrong. Or you're saying no to someone that asked a question and you're responding in the negative saying no. So what is Allah Azza wa Jal saying no to at the very beginning of the surah? Al-ulama rahimahumullah, they say that Allah Azza wa Jal is saying no to the wrong attitude and the negative words and thoughts that came up in the previous surah. Remember in the previous surah when I said to you and we shared فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ, that false and wrong thought that a person had with Allah Azza wa Jal, that if Allah Azza wa Jal was to give him honor and provide for him, he responds by saying to Allah, Rabbi Akraman, and he forgets Rabbi Akramani wa na'amani, that bad attitude he had about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah Azza wa Jal was to restrict his provision and take it away from him, what does he respond? He responds and having bad thought in Allah, saying Rabbi ahanan, my Lord humiliated me, my Lord embarrassed me. Bad thought in Allah Azza wa Jal. The beginning of Surah Al-Balad says la, meaning la to that kind of thought in Allah Azza wa Jal, la to that kind of negative attitude about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it begins la. Don't think like that of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's mentioned and it's repeated once again in the beginning of the surah. And then أقسم بهذا البلد, I swear by this city. I swear by this city. وأنت حل بهذا البلد, and you have been made halal, permissible in this city. This is referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A great lesson in this ayah. وأنت is referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Biqai rahimahullah, he says قد وقع القسم في سيد البلاد وسيد العباد. He said that the oaths of this surah, it began by first mentioning the chiefs of all city, and that is Mecca. And then the second ayah was mentioned by mentioning the chief of all mankind, which is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Well, even if you looked at the previous surah and the ending of it, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna, who's the most tranquil nafs that ever walked on the earth? وأنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The meanings of the previous surah come back once again when we read the word أنت. وأنت حل بهذا البلد. Allah Azza wa Jal now is saying that you have been made حل. حل meaning halal. You have been made permissible in this city. بهذا البلد. What does that mean? It means Allah Azza wa Jal is exposing the evil plan of Quraysh to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He's saying to him that Quraysh have come together and they have planned that your blood has become halal and permissible in this city. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, meaning your blood has become halal in this city. Al-Kuffar or Mushrikun Quraysh have come together and they have planned an evil plan to get rid of you and to kill you. For Allah Azza wa Jal is informing him of that in the words وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Well, this word and this ayah, subhanallah, it could be understood on two folds, two opposite directions. You can understand this ayah. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, meaning your blood has become halal in the city. And it also means that you will be given permission to have their blood made halal in the city. So you know, Mecca as a city, it is not allowed to slaughter anything in it. Not an animal, let alone a human. You're not allowed to cause any damage into the city. You can't even intend to cause damage in the city. Just the intention. If you intend evil in the city, Allah Azza wa Jal destroys such a person. Hatta this is up until this day. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَنْ يُرِدْ فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. That anyone who intends any kind of destruction or any evil in there, whether just the intention, so you haven't done anything, you just intended to do something wrong, نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, straight away. نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Khalas, this person on the day of judgment, he finds a tormentful punishment awaiting for him. This is the sacredness of the city. Quraysh, they knew that. And they upheld the laws and the ethical standards of Al-Balad. So they did not they did not cause bloodshed in there. If they wanted to slaughter an animal, they would leave the holy city. It's like 20-kilometer walk out until they reach the border. And they would slaughter whatever they want there and they would bring it back in. These are kuffar, these are mushrikun. But even then, they had ethical standards that they upheld. You see, you need to understand that the kuffar, as a group, they uphold certain standards they have. And they pride themselves in their own law. As Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions about Quraysh, about Fir'aun and his people, when they described their law, they said, وَيَذْهَبَ بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى. You see, they take pride in their law, your exemplary way of life and your standards and your laws. So here we understand that what we learn from this ayah is that the kuffar in general, the laws that they put for themselves, for a country or for a government, whatever it is, they uphold them. But when Islam becomes a force that is too strong to remove, they drop on their own laws just to destroy Islam, and then they re-uphold their laws. What's the example of this? Look at Quraysh. Quraysh, it was known and it was among the laws for years and years that it is not allowed for Quraysh to kill any of their members. This is a law everyone was agreed to. Quraysh can kill anyone. But if it comes to another person from Quraysh, we're not allowed to harm him, we're not allowed to touch him. That's a law. How come now when it comes to Rasulullah SAW, you're willing to kill him? The other thing is, one of their laws was you're not allowed to kill fil balad al-haram, in the sacred city of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not allowed to cause bloodshed. How come now when it comes to Rasulullah SAW, you're willing to drop on your law for a minute and kill him and then re-uphold it? It means Allah Azza wa Jal is teaching us and He's preparing us that do not ever expect justice from the disbelievers. Do not expect from them to uphold laws that they made for themselves. Look at the case of Fir'aun, for example. In Fir'aun's law, it was not allowed to kill anyone from the family of Fir'aun. That was a law. As much as they stuff up or they do of wrong, you're not allowed to kill anyone that is ascribed to the family, the honored family of Fir'aun. You're not allowed to touch them. Well, how come he killed Asya, his wife? And how come they went after Musa to kill him? You see, alayhi salam, when Islam became a standing force against the disbelief, and there was no way to get rid of it but to get down on their own laws, they would do it. In this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal is preparing and is teaching the believers of the future that don't ever expect justice from a law that is made other than the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When people find that Islam has become a force, a strong force standing in front of them, they are willing to let go of their own law that they pride themselves with, just to get rid of Islam, to get rid of all of its people, and then once again uphold their own laws. Whether this we see, day in and day out, we see this thing. It's not something that is absent from the eyes of the people. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Allah Azza wa Jal is teaching him this golden lesson. and he's preparing him for injustices of his own people. Well, get ready for it. And don't complain and sit there and say, how come we're treated this way and how come their people are treated this way. Don't worry about that. Learn and understand that this is their way of life and this is how they deal with Islam when it becomes a strong force standing in front of them. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. The second meaning of وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ is Allah Azza wa Jal promising in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that you will be given permission, it will become halal and permissible for you to shed their blood. As though within the ayah there is victory guaranteed for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that did happen. On the day of Aamul Fath, on the day in which the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam conquered Mecca and destroyed the idols that were in it. On that day, which was the 8th year of Hijrah, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was given permission for 1 hour of the day. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says that Allah Azza wa Jal made Mecca a haram. And it is a haram from the day Allah created the heavens and the earth. And it remains a haram, you can't shed blood in it. It will remain like this until the last day, until the day of judgment. And it was never made permissible for anyone to shed anyone's blood, for anyone before me, and it will not be made halal for anyone after me. And it was made halal for me for 1 hour of the day, and that was the day Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam conquered Mecca. He was given permission for 1 hour of the day to kill whoever he wants. And there were certain war criminals who he executed right then and there. But for the vast majority of the day, there was forgiveness and there was mercy. But there were some people that weren't able to get off like this easily. So he killed them, and he killed them right then and there. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَوَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Subhanallah, the depth in the meaning of this ayah. In one opinion, it means that you have been made halal in the city, and they're going to kill you soon. And in another meaning of the ayah, which is also correct, that you will be given permission to shed blood of whoever you want, and that happened as though there's a guarantee of victory for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the future. Well, this ayah is a Meccan surah, so this is even before the Hijrah. And Fatah Makkah happened after the Hijrah. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. And I swear by the father and that which he fathered. What does that mean? What is it referring to? Al-ulama rahimahumullah, they say in context of the surah, walidin is referring to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then when you think of Al-Balad, when you think of Mecca, the first person and the first of the prophets that comes in your mind is Ibrahim alayhi salam. He's the one who rebuilt the Kaaba by the permission of Allah and made the dua right then and there that resulted in the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the emergence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Islam altogether. Or Islam, all of it, and the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all of this was one dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam that was accepted when he said, رَبَّنَا وَابْعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. فَوَالِدٍ here, I swear by the father, by Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَمَا وَلَدْ, and that which he fathered. But وَمَا in the Arabic language also refers to something that you're amazed by. When you're amazed by something, you say, Ma ajmalahu, for example. How beautiful is that thing, right? If you see a car that's nice, in Arabic you say, Ma ajmalaha. How beautiful is this car, right? When Allah says, Ma walad, it means what an amazing son he fathered. This son is referred to, and what is meant by it is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-walid is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Wal-walad here, through Ismail, which is the son of Ibrahim, only came in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know that Ibrahim alayhi salam had 2 children. He had Ishaq and he had Ismail. From Ishaq, that lineage came the non-Arab prophets, al-A'jami, right? Which is Ishaq, Yaqub, Yusuf, Zakaria, and I keep on going from there, Yahya, Isa, all of that are the non-Arab prophets. And from Ismail alayhi salam only came one prophet. Well, that is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so Ismail, that begins the Arab lineage. Ismail remained in Mecca, he lived in Mecca, and from that came the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. فإذا walidin is referring to Ibrahim alayhi salam, والولد is referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But what is amazing? Why is, the ayah is saying, وَوَالِدٍ, I swear by the father, and what an amazing son he fathered. Why is there amazement to the son and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? This is the amazement. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, from among Quraysh, is the only one who is being true to the legacy of his father Ibrahim alayhi salam by calling to at-tawheed, la ilaha illallah. He's the only one that is being true to the legacy. While all of Quraysh ascribe themselves to Ibrahim, they pride themselves with the legacy of Ibrahim, but come see what they do, they're all upholding their shirk and are worshipping their idols and so on. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expressing amazement at that, and he's saying, وَمَا وَلَدْ, what an amazing son he fathered. Look at Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the only one among Quraysh that is really upholding the legacy of his father. Meaning, why are they harming him? Why do they want to kill him when the only thing he's doing is following what his father was preaching in this sacred city many years ago? What an amazing issue and what an amazing affair that Allah Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses amazement at. وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Indeed, we created mankind and we created the human being in kabad, in labor, in difficulty, in intense struggle. That's kabad. Now, you see, al-insan here, it refers to each and every single human being. The disbeliever, the believer, the male, the female, the young, the old. Allah Azza wa Jal has made it a fact in this ayah that each and every single person is created in kabad, in intense difficulty. There is no life that is going to pass that is going to be smooth and easy. Each and every single person has a nasib, has a portion and has a decree of difficulty in his life. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Kabad, it comes from the word kibad. Kibad is the liver. The pain of the liver. If someone was afflicted by pain of the liver, it is intense, excruciating pain. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, meaning we created the human being in difficulty. Intense difficulty, that it's pain like the pain felt by someone that has an injured liver. Right? That's intense pain. That's the difficulty he's going to go in life. He's going to go through in life. The other thing with the word kabad, they say, for example, they say الشمس في كبد السماء. When the sky, when the sun is in the middle of the sky, which means that's the hottest part of the day, they refer to it as though the sun is in the kabid as-sama, is in the middle of the sky. And subhanAllah, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, meaning we created the human being in kabad. And when the sun is in the middle of the sky, it's the middle of the day, it's the most difficult and hottest part of the day. That is the kind of difficulty one would experience in life. As though he's outside in the middle of the day, in the middle of the heat, and the difficulty is that ascribe itself with that. فَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he says this refers to the stages of the human being. For example, when you come out from your mother, that wasn't an easy experience, that was difficult. Also, the kid comes out, he's crying because of the pain that he went through, right? Or because of the hit of the shaitan that he gave him. Difficulty from the very beginning. Then he grows up, bit by bit, he begins to learn how to suckle, then he learns how to eat and he chokes with that and the difficulties that come with that. That is kabad. Then he learns how to walk and he stumbles and he falls across and he begins to pick himself up and walk again. That is fi kabad. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, an intense stage in life in where he struggles. And then he learns how to talk and he stutters and he can't put two words together. Then eventually he learns how to make sentences and words and he begins to speak. That is kabad. And then he grows more, and then school and education, and then he gets married, and then the family and the struggle with that, and then obviously after this in his life and with his children, the struggle with that, and then he dies, and then the struggles in the grave, and then he's resurrected, and the struggles on the day of gathering, and then the struggles on the hisab before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the questioning of Allah Azza wa Jal to such a person. All these are لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, deep, immersed in difficulty and struggle. And then there's the sirat that he has to walk on. Eventually, when his 2 foot are in the paradise, here al-kabad finishes and it's gone and it's done. Amma before that, don't ever think that al-kabad would separate away from you and that the difficulties will all be gone. For Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Inna ma'al usri yusra. See? Inna ma'al usri. That with difficulty there's ease. He did not say after difficulty there's ease. He did not say inna ba'da al-usri yusra. He said with it. Difficulty is always there. It'll never go. But with it will come ease. Inna ma'ala Allah Azza wa Jalla will make some things easy. But the difficulty is always there. It cannot go. It cannot go. Why did Allah Azza wa Jalla create the human being in difficulty? Why won't it go in this life? What's the purpose? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam in the paradise and gave him that happy, luxurious, comfortable life, which Allah azza wa jal, qadirun, He was able to leave us up there. And He's able to create the human being in happiness, in contentment, in excitement, and not pass him one day through difficulty and struggle. But why didn't Allah azza wa jal choose to do this? Why did Allah azza wa jal choose to create the human being in kabad, in difficulty? Why? لأنه without difficulty, you will not find the need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like this is human beings. When good times come by, they forget Allah azza wa jal completely, as though He did not exist, right? They take upon the ni'am and they immerse themselves in the blessings and in the comforts, forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether. Here, just the previous surah told us that lesson. If Allah azza wa jal was to give honor to someone and bless him, who forgot about the blessings, all he's thanking is, Rabbi akraman, what about wa na'aman? You see how Bani Adam quickly forgets when the struggles go away from him. Innama, when the human being is tested and he struggles, mathalan, he doesn't have food to find, then he turns to Allah and he begins to beg and call and cry to Allah to feed him. When the human being falls sick, that's difficulty, he turns to Allah azza wa jal in dua, in desperate need for Allah azza wa jal, and he begins to make dua for him. With that kind of calling to Allah azza wa jal, Allah forgives a person his deeds and eventually admits him into the paradise. For you understand why difficulty is in your life. If difficulty was gone, there's no need to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will find that the need has almost disappeared in your life. This is why the closest to Allah are those that are tested more. Those that are tested most with difficult tests are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're always in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. وسubhanallah, يعني to prove this point of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He Himself proves it in the previous 3 ayat. When you read لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, we created the human being in difficulty. What proves that is the first 3 ayat. When you read لَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, when you think of Al-Balad, what do you think of? You think of difficulty. Al-Balad Makkah. And when you think of Hajj, when you think of Umrah, Aslan al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself, he says, Jihadul Mar al-Hajj, that the jihad of a woman, which is difficult, jihad is something that people struggle in and it's difficult. The jihad of a woman is Hajj. When you think of Al-Balad, you're thinking of kabad, you're thinking of difficulty and struggle getting there, wal Hajj, wal Umrah, and dealing with the heat and dealing with the people over there. All of it is surrounded with kabad. Read the next ayah, وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, and your blood has been made halal in the city. It's a difficult position. The fact that they wanted to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that resulted in him and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu leaving their house in the middle of the day, was Salat al-Dhuhr, until they went to Ghar Thawr. Imagine the kabad in that, the difficulty and the struggle. And then that, it made way to Al-Hijrah, and they went from Mecca all the way until they reached Al-Madinah, with the difficulty and the struggle with that. For the second ayah also teaches you what difficulty the human being is going to be put in. وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ, and walidin, I swear by the father and that which he fathered. When you think of father and son, when you think of parents and children, that kind of relationship there is full of kabad. It's full of difficulty. You think it's simple when you have children, but Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he teaches us that the children could either be a source of a person entering Jahannam wal-'iyadhu billah, or could be a source for why he enters the paradise. Subhanallah. In other words, they are kabad, they are struggle, a difficulty from the very beginning when they are born. They're put in your hand as a responsibility. You're responsible to ensure their Islamic upbringing, that they're able to read the Quran properly, that they understand what salat is and they pray in the masjid, that they understand what their deen is and they practice their deen properly. All of this is on your neck and it's your responsibility. And if you fall short in it and you fail in that, then Jahannam comes on the day of judgment. Man mata yawma yamutu wa huwa ghashun li ra'iyatihi lam yajid ra'ihat al-jannah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, the one who dies on the day he dies, وَهُوَ غَاشٌ لِرَعِيَّتِهِ, and he has cheated his family. How do you cheat your family? You don't teach them anything about their deen. That's a cheat. You cheated your family. And you saw them do the haram and you never bothered once to advise them and say to them, stay away from this haram. So you brought them the haram in the house. This is all غَاشٌ لِرَعِيَّتِهِ. What was his punishment on the day of judgment? Look, the punishment is because of his children. he will not smell the fragrance of the paradise, and let alone even come near it. With the paradise, you can smell it from 700 years away. And he did not smell it because of his children. No doubt when you speak about father and mother and children, we're speaking about kabad, difficulty and struggle. So that means you need to struggle with the upbringing of your children. Not an easy thing. Subhanallah, the first 3 ayat proved the point of the 4th ayah, which is لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Al-insan. You know, from among al-insan, there are 2 types. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ فَمِنْكُمْ كَافِرٌ وَمِنْكُمْ مُؤْمِنٌ. Al-insan, from this perspective, is divided into 2 categories. There's a believer and there's a disbeliever. هُوَ أَصْلًا لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ means that the one who chose the path of righteousness will also have a difficult life. And the one who chose the path of disbelief will also have a difficult life. Don't ever think that the one who lives in his disbelief and lives in disobedience of Allah is living the life, is living the happy life. It doesn't happen. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Everyone is in difficulty. Whether you chose the path of righteousness, but at least on the path of righteousness, there is guarantee from Allah that it will make things easy for you, right? يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. Allah wants to lighten the burden. In other words, the more deen one ascribes, the more deen one hooks himself on, the more Allah Azza wa Jal eases his burdens and difficulties. And the one that is living a life of kufr and disbelief and disobedience, he's always fi kabad. He's also in difficulty. He is also depressed and worried and whatever it is of the struggles that come in this life as well. But he always carries it as well. He also carries it, subhanallah. There's 2 ways. You either choose this or you either choose this. A difficulty is there. At least on this path, you're promised إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. You're promised lightness. مَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He did not put any burden and difficulty in your deen, meaning hold on to this path or you'll see the success and you'll see the ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَن يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٍ. Now Allah Azza wa Jalla is speaking about the disobedient one and the disbeliever for that matter. أَيَحْسَبُ, did he assume أَن لَن يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٍ, that no one is capable of him? Did he assume that he will not be resurrected on the day of judgment? But you know, when you read this ayah, what is it highlighting? Who's the one that walks around assuming that Allah is not capable of him? No doubt this is someone that is arrogant. No doubt this is someone that fights Allah day and night with sin, day and night, who is a disbeliever in Allah. In other words, the first quality that Allah Azza wa Jal is highlighting about the rebellious and the disbeliever is his arrogance, the attitude of arrogance. أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَن يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٍ. And the next evil character that Allah Azza wa Jal highlights is now got to do with his money. يَقُولُ أَهْلَكْتُ مَالًا لُبَدًا. These 2 ayat with the third one, أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٍ. The purpose of these ayat is Allah Azza wa Jal highlighting to us from among al-insan that we created, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا, from among this insan that we created, one of the traits that would eventually lead to kufr. Number 1, the trait of arrogance. And that is within the ayah of أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَن يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٍ. يَقُولُ, now that's his attitude when he walks around. His attitude when it comes to money, look how it is. Look, وللأسف, this is an attitude that is rampant, even among the Muslim community. يَقُولُ is a present tense. In other words, this is his attitude with money always. He continuously says this. And in the present tense, it implies continuity. What does he say when it comes to his money? أَهْلَكْتُ, I destroyed. I blew a lot of money on something, right? Malan is money. Lubadan is money that is piled and gathered. And you know, like for example, in arts and craft, they bring a few pieces and they glue them on top of each other. That in Arabic is called al-lubad. Lubadan, malan lubada, meaning you collect money, you pile money on top of money, on top of money, on top of money. Eventually, what do you do with it? Ahlaktu, you destroy it all on something of this dunya, entertainment or whatever it is. But the wrong thing in this ayah that's being highlighted is his attitude when doing so. Look, he doesn't even say anfaqtu malan lubada. Infaq is something that is praised. I spent money on such and such. Innama here, he has an attitude in where he wants to show off to others what he spends. So he says, أهلكت مال اللبدا. Someone asks him, MashaAllah, what, يعني, this car went? Yeah, well, I just blew on it about 50 grand, يعني, it's nothing. Or his house, MashaAllah, it just cost us 2 million, really, it's nothing, يعني. And the only reason he says that is to see the reaction of others, us. He has, as Al-Biqai rahimahullah says, he has no other intention but to observe and see the reaction of others. When he says to them, I spent this on that, and I spent that on this, all I want to see is how do the people react, and for them to praise me and see me something big in their eye. فَأَهْلَكْتُ, I blew some money on this, doesn't matter, it cost us this much. يقول أهلكت مال اللبدا. Well, this only comes after one has developed that kind of arrogant attitude. Allah Azza wa Jal highlights this as a really evil character and trait a person can hold. يقول أهلكت مال اللبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. Did he assume that no one has seen him? Did he assume that no one saw him and saw what he's doing and heard what he's saying? And what is the proof that Allah Azza wa Jal saw him? The ayah after it, ألم نجعل له عينين. Didn't we make and install for him 2 eyes? In other words, the one that gave you the blessing of the eyes to see, how can he not see you? أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. How did it ever cross your mind that Allah Azza wa Jal did not see every action and every word you said, when He's the one who gave you the ability to see? Most definitely He saw you. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن. We gave him the blessing of the 2 eyes. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا. And we gave him a tongue. Not only that, we gave him shafatayn, 2 lips. And your lips were there, and the purpose of them was to keep this tongue inside. But what did this person do? He said, أَهْلَكْتُ مَالَ اللُّبَدِ. He couldn't control his tongue, من الحرام. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, I gave him the blessing of the tongue, and look what He used it for. He used it to say, أَهْلَكْتُ مَالَ اللُّبَدِ, and to boast about it and to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal with it. But Allah Azza wa Jal didn't just give you that tongue. وَشَفَتَيْن, the purpose, He gave you the lips. The purpose of the lips were to keep that tongue controlled and keep it behind. It was the prison, it was the cage for the tongue. No, the person did not benefit from them, for he spoke what he spoke. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن. And on top of that, هَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. This is a 4th gift Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned. What does هَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن mean? Meaning we guided him to the 2 elevated paths. Here it's very interesting. An-Najdain comes from the word An-Najd. Well, Najd in the Arabic language is a mountain. It's a mountain in where there's no vegetation and there's nothing at the beginning of it. When you think of a mountain, what do you think of? Difficulty. Well, that's what Allah Azza wa Jalla has been saying from the beginning. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. But now this understanding of kabad is coming in a new image. Think of this. There are 2 mountains in front of you. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, we guided the human being to the 2 elevated mountains. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he said, هُمَا طَرِيقُ الْخَيْرِ وَطَرِيقُ الشَّرِّ. That the 2 paths, the 2 mountains, one of them is the path of goodness and one of them is the path of evil, right? Of evilness. These are the 2 paths. When you think of a mountain, you think of difficulty. The path of shar is a mountain, meaning it's difficult. The path of khair is a mountain, meaning it's difficult. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. We guided him to the 2 paths. What does that mean? Meaning Allah Azza wa Jal gave the human being the ability to recognize that which is good and that which is bad. There is not a single human being among us and in the past and those that will come in the future, from the worst of mankind including Fir'aun and the best of mankind, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is not a single person except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside of his nafs the ability to recognize that which is shar, evil, and that which is khair, good. Everyone has got that ability. And what does that mean? Meaning when you do something that's haram, mother, let's say you went and stole. You don't need an ayah to tell you that stealing is haram. You don't need someone to come and tell you what you're doing is wrong. Automatically you know that what you're doing is wrong. And when you do something good, you gave a sadaqah to someone, you don't need someone to tell you, brother, what you did is, mashallah, it's a good hasana. Already a nafs, it recognizes what's good, it knows that that is good. This is why, even though they made these lie detectors to some certain degree, they have truth in them. Then they strap a person with lie detectors, right? On his pulse down here, on his heart, and on his brains and so on, where the veins are pumping and so on. So what do they do after that? They ask a person questions. Let's say it's a murder case, and they ask him questions. And what happens if he's lying? Well, what happens if he lies? His the pulse rate, it increases. The heart rate increases. Why? لأن the body from the inside has something called guilt. النفس اللوامة, the blameworthy, the guilty nafs. And that alarm goes off. And when it goes off, the body itself, it reacts. لأن the body knows what is wrong. And it knows what is right. To some degree, lie detectors, they have some truth in them. فسبحان لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. And here Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying وهديناه النجدين. وهديناه النجدين. Two paths. Allah Azza wa Jalla now, He says فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ. How come the human being didn't involve himself and charge and take on Al-Aqaba? Al-Aqaba in the Arabic language, it refers to a very steep path. Now Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us that now there are two mountains in front of you. There's the path of good and the path of evil. Allah Azza wa Jalla now is telling us about one path. And He's saying to us that one of these paths is a Aqaba. Aqaba meaning it's steeper than the other. Yani it's almost now like rock climbing. Very steep mountain. Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ, meaning هَلْ اقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ, meaning why hasn't the human being involved himself in Al-Aqaba? Why didn't he take on the steeper path? What is he still waiting for? In other words, Allah Azza wa Jalla wants from you and I to hold on to Al-Aqaba. This is the path of salvation. This is the path that will protect you on the Day of Judgment. Al-Aqaba itself. Now the question is, what is Al-Aqaba? Well, Allah asks that question. He quickly after, He said, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ. I don't give you any clue as to what Al-Aqaba is. In other words, you will never know what Al-Aqaba is until you hear it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. And after this ayah, He's going to explain to us what Al-Aqaba is. What does Allah Azza wa Jal want from each and every single person? That if we were to hold on to, we are holding on to Al-Aqaba, which eventually would lead the person into the paradise. Exclusive knowledge, exclusive information that Allah Himself would send down in the Quran before Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could even speak about it. This is serious business. He says, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ. Listen, and we'll conclude with what Al-Aqaba is. It's a few things. Number one, what's the ayah after it? فَكُّ رَقَبَةِ. That's number one. Well, this is deep ayah. We need to understand surrounding this ayah of meanings. فَكُّ رَقَبَةِ, meaning freeing a slave. Slaves, go and look for slaves that are in captivity and free them. Obviously this doesn't exist today. We'll see how relevant this ayah is with us. فَكُّ رَقَبَةِ, meaning the first thing that Islam wanted from the people is to be humanitarians and to look after human beings. Look, ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا is at the end. Your deeds and your righteousness with Allah Azza wa Jal came all the way at the end. Innama, at the beginning, what is going to make you a true Muslim is how much of a human can you be to others. What kind of help can you offer others? Number one, فَكُّ رَقَبَةِ. Fakku as well is a noun. Nouns in the Arabic language, they imply permanence. Meaning, commit yourself to freeing slaves. This is being told to the Sahaba at their time. What is going to make you a true believer is committing yourself to freeing slaves. Not just one, khalas, don't ask from me anything else anymore. Always, continuous. Like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Bilal radiallahu anhu was the seventh slave that he freed. Otherwise he had freed way before him more. And even before him he freed so much more. Right? Committed himself to freeing slaves. فَكُّ رَقَبَةِ. A slave in Arabic is called a raqaba, a neck. Why? Because he's controlled. If you have a chain, let's say you chain someone in his neck, and you've got the chain in your hand, and the end of it is around the person's neck. If you pushed him forward, he has to walk with you forward. If he decided to walk the other way, he chokes and he dies right then and there. In other words, he was called a neck because he's controlled. What he's told to do, he has to do. If he disobeys, he's killed right then and there. So he was called a raqaba. Islam encouraged in freeing the slave. But there's a unique opinion, a very beautiful opinion as to what fakku raqabah means. We'll understand, listen to this. This is one of the Sahaba, one of the Tabi'een, rahimahullah, I forgot his name. He said, fakku raqabah means freeing the nafs
from the slavery of sins by a means of tawbah. Yani the first thing on the path, on the steep path of Al-Aqabah, as difficult as it sounds, you're supposed to free yourself from the slavery of sins by a means of tawbah. Well, subhanAllah, how true is this? Sins make you a slave. Sins make you a slave. Look at for example, let's look at a very common sin, and that is riba. How many people, especially from among the Muslims, fall into the sin of riba? With the excuse of, it's just my first house, wallahi, I have kids and we can't go anywhere, and I need to own a house, I need to own a property, and they fall in the sin of riba. So they go to the bank and they take a loan, and they buy this house, they settle in there, and for the next 30 years, whatever it is in their life, what do? What do they spend for the next 30 years? How do they spend it? Doing what? Repay. No. 30 years they spend it in slavery. 30 years they spend it in slavery. I tell you how slavery. Not one of those days he affords to be sick and take off work. He can't afford. He can't afford to be sick and take one day off work. Then if he doesn't work, make that money and do that repayment at the end of the month, he falls short, the bank increases the price, and it's another disaster upon him. For he's a slave to the bank until he finishes from it. This is what sins do. They make you a slave. Whatever sin, take any sin you want, and it makes you a slave. Whatever sin it was, it makes you a slave. Subhanallah, fakku raqabah. Free yourself from the slavery of sins by a means of tawbah. It's going to be difficult. This is why Allah called it Al-Aqabah. He called it the steep mountain, the steep path like this. It's going to be very difficult to climb, but it requires from you commitment and sacrifice. Fakku, I said to you, it was a noun. Otherwise it implies continuity. Always tawbah. Always taking yourself away from the sayyat. Otherwise they'll bring you so much embarrassment in your life, and on the day of judgment it only brings you an adhabul alim. For you need to be understanding that Al-Aqabah, first and foremost, it requires from you to clean yourself from a sayyat by a means of tawbah. Fakku raqabah aw it'amun fi yawmin dhi masghaba. The second thing that is waiting for you there on the path of Al-Aqabah is it'amun fi yawmin dhi masghaba, feeding. There is nothing more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than feeding those that are in need. Like it'am is also a noun. In other words, committing yourself to feeding. Fi yawmin, on a day, dhi masghaba, that is known as hunger. On a day in which there is widespread famine and widespread hunger. Not just on any casual day. Find a day in where the entire town and entire community is struggling, going through famine. There is not a single loaf of bread to eat, and there is not a cup of water to drink. أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة. Today these days exist. يوم ذي مسغبة is days that exist today. Whether you're speaking about Yemen, or you're speaking about Syria, or some parts of Iraq, or whether we're speaking about Burma and Bangladesh, some parts of Bangladesh, parts in Africa, and around the globe, around the world, there are people that living يوم ذي مسغبة, in where the day would end and they wouldn't find anything to eat, for they would resort to grass, the leaves of the tree. Here, for you to hold on to Al-Aqabah and really prove to yourself you held on to Al-Aqabah, you need to find days like that and continuously, day after day, provide food for such people. إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة. Who do you feed? يتيما ذا مقربة. An orphan that is of close proximity. What does that mean? It means an orphan that you're related to, or an orphan that is close in the vicinity. Look for orphans that are around you and feed them and take care of them. هو الصدقة, that's how we're supposed to deal with it. And feeding others, those in need and poor, that's how you're supposed to deal with it. That you're supposed to feed and look after those that are close. Maqraba. It's like a ripple effect. You throw a stone in the ocean, it causes a ripple effect. For firstly, look after the first circle. If there's no one poor, look after the circle after that, and the circle after, until your money is divided and given to those that are in need. And if everyone around the world was to do that, it takes care of the poor and the needy that are in their town. أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة. Second category, أو مسكينا ذا متربة, or a miskin. When the word miskin comes in the Quran, it refers to the faqir and the miskin. Faqir is the poor, the miskeen is the needy. The poor is doing it a bit more difficultly, absolutely has nothing. Well, miskeen is someone that at least has something, يعني. Like وَأَمَّا السَّفِينَةُ فَكَانَتْ لِمَسَاكِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الْبَحْرِ, that they are masakeen, even that. Allah Azza wa Jalla said that they owned a ship and they would work in the ocean. Yani they had some, maybe it was like a ferry service or fishermen, whatever it is, they had a job, but they did not have the entire essentials in life. فَأَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. Find a miskeen. ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. Matraba comes from turab. Turab is dust, dirt. Yani miskeen, clinging onto him is a turab. Who's that? That's someone that doesn't have a house. You know, someone homeless that sleeps on the street, he eventually wakes up, he's dusting himself. Then he did not have a house that would protect him from the dust. يعني really looking after someone that is desperate in need, doesn't even have a house or shelter himself, and feed such a person. All of this, look at that. Free the slave, look after the poor, look after the needy, look after the orphan, feed him, take care of him. That is what Al-Aqaba is. ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة. Then his iman came. Your iman will only come after you become a humanitarian. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يعني before his salat, before siyam, before all of these legislations of Islam, he was a humanitarian sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know that in the early days of Mecca, he involved himself in an agreement that they signed, was known as Hilf al-Fudul. What was Hilf al-Fudul all about? It was about helping the poor and the needy in Mecca. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he was in Ghar Hira, Jibreel came to him and he was scared, shaking, and he rushed down. And he went to whose house? Khadija radiallahu anha, his wife. And he was trembling out of fear and saying, Zammiluni or Dathiruni, right? Eventually Khadija radiallahu anha, she said to him, what's wrong with him? And he spoke his story. And she said to him, look at the words she said, look, very important. She said to him, Wallahi la yukhzika Allahu abada. She said, by Allah, Allah would never humiliate you. He will never embarrass you. Why? إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. You keep ties and maintain ties with your blood relatives. وَتُعِينُ إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. He says, وَتُقْرِ الضَّيْفِ. She says to him, and you take care of your guest. وَتُعِينُ عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ. And you take care of the poor and the needy and the destitute. And all of these are humanitarian qualities. Yani she's saying to him, Allah will never be upset with you because you do 1, 2, 3. As-salat, she didn't even mention anything about salat. Aslan, ad-deen just began. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a humanitarian before all, right? This is to teach you that Islam is not just about your salat. Salat is between you and Allah. It's not just about your fasting, that's between you and Allah. Not just about your hajj or your umrah, all of this is good, this is between you and Allah. But your Islam is about what you can offer mankind. What services can you offer? And the best example was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's enough to look into his seerah, how he was with the orphans, or how he was with the poor, how he was with the needy, how he was with his guests. This is what made Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was like that, now he's ready for deen. Now he's ready for salat. Surah Al-Ma'un, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Yani the first ayah is telling us, do you know the qualities of the one who lies against the deen? And what would you think? Someone that lies against the deen? Maybe that's someone that doesn't believe in Allah, doesn't believe in the books of Allah. Well, that's true, but that's not the first thing Allah highlights. What's the first thing? فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ. The one that lies against the deen, the first quality of his is someone that pushes the orphan around. Someone that violates the rights of the orphan. The orphan needs mercy. Yani someone that is heartless towards the mercy, towards the orphan. وَلَا يَحُبُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. His second crime. This is a person that lies against the deen. What's his second crime? He does not encourage others to feed al-miskin. وَلَا يَحُبُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. One miskin. Forget the masakeen. And he couldn't even encourage the feeding of one poor. وَلَا يَحُبُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. What's the other crime? Now his salat. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. When it comes to his salat, he's careless. But the crime of being careless in his salat was mentioned at the end. And his crime against humanity was mentioned at the beginning, to teach you that most of your Islam, what prepares you for Islam, what prepares you for your salat, is how you deal with others. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a man came to him, يشكو إليه قسوة قلبه. Hadith sahih. A man came to Rasulullah ﷺ complaining of a rigid, tough, hard heart. He finds it difficult to do things. So he says to him, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, give me some advice. What do I do? How do I soften this heart so it's ready to pray and experience khushu' in its salat? What do you think the Nabi ﷺ would say to him? He said to him, Imsah ra's al-yatim wa at'im al-miskin. He said to him, go and find the orphan and wipe the head of the orphan. هذا sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. Wa at'im al-miskin, and feed the poor and the needy. If you do these two things, they soften the heart. When the heart is softened, now you're ready to make salat and experience khushu' in your salat. يعني subhanallah, incredible meanings. Ad-deen is al-aqabah. Well, the aqabah is first defined by what care and concern you have for other human beings. Subhanallah. Then he said, ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and we conclude with this, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. Two things were mentioned. Tawasi, meaning to advise one another. With what? What is the first thing? Tawasaw bis sabr, advise one another with patience. And this aqabah is not going to be easy. It needs patience. Freeing yourself from the slavery of sins is going to require patience. Committing yourself to feeding the poor and the needy. Every single fundraiser that there is, you go and you offer something, and you don't sit there and you say, well, we've been attending the last 5 fundraisers, khalas, enough. Let's wait until next year and we'll attend something. We'll want to have a break. Mafi, you need sabr. You need to continue and continuously give and give, and that requires sabr. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. And all of this requires rahmah from you. For you to free to feed the poor and to feed the needy, it requires rahmah. As a matter of fact, from the beginning of the surah until the very end of the surah, each and every single ayah has these two things in them. Al-rahmah wal-sabr. Subhanallah, these two words, they summarize the entire, that's the theme of the surah. If you look at the word, لا أقسم بهذا البلد, al-balad itself, when you think of al-balad, it needs your sabr. When you go to Mecca, Hajj, Umrah, it needs sabr. Well, it needs rahmah as well. So you find yourself very merciful when you go there. Giving this person or giving that person, even if he looks a bit dodgy. Some people will tell you, Heather, should I give him or not? Khalas, let me give him. We're in Mecca, we'll give him. There's rahmah, you're flooded with rahmah from inside. This is how the land of Allah Azza wa Jal is made. وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا. It's a feeling that overwhelms you. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they want to kill him, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. How much sabr does that require? And when the ayah means that he is going to kill them, how much rahmah did he have on that day? In where he, for the vast majority of the day, he forgave. وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. Think of father and child relationship. It requires a lot of sabr. And it requires a lot of mercy as well. So you find that the parent needs to have a lot of sabr with his son as he gives him that correct upbringing. And he needs to do it with a lot of mercy as well, and a lot of encouragement. Subhanallah, from the beginning of the ayah until the end of the surah, you find that involving itself with these two themes. Wallahu a'lam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a deeper understanding of the Quran. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our path of al-aqabah easy. And we ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather us on the day of judgment, believers in Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Him to make us people of the Quran, people who benefit from the reminders of the Quran. إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.